So you started working with Microsoft 365, Power BI, or other Azure assets. One of the included components covering your entire business is the Azure Active Directory. We have worked with a number of customers who need to support external users in their environment for a variety of reasons, including Power BI embedded, sharing assets with business partners, and multiple Active Directory domains within their current environment, including different .coms and so on. The solution to these scenarios can be found in the B2B functionality in Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory is the identity backbone of the Microsoft Cloud. Here are 3 key things to know about guest users and the B2B support in Azure Active Directory. You need to know who can add guest users and which tools support it. For instance, Power BI has multiple mechanisms, including email and sharing, which are just button clicks, that can allow users with pro licenses to share with users outside of your organization. This is done through an invitation which allows the guest user to be added to your Azure Active Directory. Depending on the product within the Microsoft Cloud, you may have a variety of ways to lock this down or change it. However, you can always trump the apps by using Azure Active Directory. Whatever the settings are there are the settings that hold for your entire Azure Active Directory domain. I recommend managing those permissions there. At least the permissions to allow who can share to guest users should absolutely be done at Azure Active Directory. The second thing I'd like you to know about is that guest users can be added to a security group. This is hugely important. If you're going to have guest users in your environment, which is not an uncommon thing, nor is it a bad thing, you should be using Azure Active Directory security groups to drop them into so you can manage your permissions at a group level. This has been a best practice in Active Directory for years. So as we start looking at it here, and in this case, we definitely want to move forward and do the same thing with our guest users, put them in the appropriate groups. I don't know that I would blend groups between your guest users and your normal domain users, but that's your call depending on the use case of that security group. If it's a collaborative effort, perfect. That's a great way to do it. So anyway, so there's your guest users. It can be in security groups. Just manage your permissions there. The third thing I'd like to call out is guest users can come from any domain. So you really need to know who your guests are, because I can have an email address like hug123756@gmail.com. And does that really tell you anything about me? Not likely. So you need to pay attention to who your guest users are and make sure you understand the domains they come from and manage those users. They're easy to identify in Azure Active Directory, and you can, because they can be identified, you can run scripts for checking, those kind of things. So this may be the functionality you want. You may want to open it up to a lot of different domain users, but you want to make sure that you understand who has access to your assets. So quickly in review, the 3 things I called out today about guest users or B2B functionality in Azure Active Directory are: tools in Microsoft Cloud can create those guest users without necessarily asking you for permission. 2, guest users can be in security groups and should be managed in security groups. And 3, guest users can come from any domain, gmail.com, outlook.com, and my favorite, dataonwheels.com. So as we move forward, keep in mind Azure Active Directory and guest users are a powerful feature inside of Azure, but it's something you need to be aware of and know how to manage it and know how those guest users are created. If you have any other questions about Azure Active Directory, guest users, or anything else related to Azure, click the link below. We'd be more than happy to reach out and contact you with more information. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day.